Vijay, you want to...
Thank you so much for your time. I don't know how it happened, but one of the experiences I had around both of you several months ago was the level of humility in your soul. I had this intense feeling, and I'm not sure whether it's my spirit friends who gave it to me, but the level of humility in your soul, I know you talk about humility, but I have never run into anything even close to that in my interactions with people on earth.
Every day we remind ourselves, be humble, be humble,
Always
be
be
humble,
more humble.
be more humble.
Yeah.
But the flavor of your soul, that humility element was just so strong in the feeling that I got. And it was just, a reference point for me, I guess, going forward.
Yeah. All the benefits we've enjoyed from receiving God's love have come from our desire for truth, our faith in God, and being humble.
And, humility is the one aspect that is really dependent on you. Love and truth and these things exist.
External to you.
They're external and we can desire them and receive them. But humility is the thing that we have to develop inside of ourselves.
Two things, humility and faith.
Yeah.
They depend on you. You're not going to be gifted them. Not everybody has them. Many of you have been indoctrinated away from faith and away from humility through the course of your life. And they're the things that are going to benefit you the most in your relationship with God. The more you get to know about God, the more you realise, wow, this is just so amazing. And isn't it amazing how little I know?
Yes.
It's just absolutely amazing.
The more you grow on this path, the more you understand how much you have to learn, and how much...
How little,
Yeah. And the beauty of humility, if I can say this, humility is the quality that leaves you open to learning more things. So the more humble you become, the more you will learn. You understand? So without humility, learning is not possible. And the main reason why Mary and I have learnt the most of all the people who've ever lived on this earth, and we have, and that's not a statement of error, it's just a statement of fact, is because we've been more open to receiving that truth than any others. And the main reason why that's been the case is because we've been more humble.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
the more humble you are, the more you're able to absorb new information without rejecting it, without pushing it away from yourself. The more humble you are. And this is why developing the quality of humility is so essential for your future. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, having the faith that God will reward your humility by giving you truth. Right? So the way it sort of works emotionally is the more humble I am, the more truth I can receive and actually feel in my soul. And so you can see that as far as it depends upon me, the humility is one of the most important things I need to develop. So when we say to you as a group, many of you are very arrogant, the reason why we say that is you don't understand the problem of being very arrogant.
The limits
it's placing upon you. The limits it's placing upon your ability to learn and your ability to change. As soon as you become arrogant, you're basically putting huge blocks to the absorption of truth in your soul. And that's going to cause huge problems for your future, because the more you resist the truth, the more unhappiness is probably going to be the result. Truth is what opens up all of your future for happiness. And so the quality of humility is such that unless you develop it, you will find yourself very resistive to truth at all times, and therefore very resistive to making changes in harmony with what God's design of you is. So I find the quality of humility so important, because without it, and this is why I keep saying to many of you, without this humility, the emotional absorption of truth becomes impossible. And the net result of that is going to be, you're going to be living in a lie. And the net result of living in a lie is unhappiness every single time. Every single time. So you can intellectually believe you believe, while at the same time have no truth in your soul whatsoever, right? Because of the lack of humility that exists in your soul to be able to absorb truth. Yeah. And so a person who's humble absorbs truth easily. You don't keep your own opinions anymore. They don't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what you think anymore. It doesn't matter what you have to feel anymore. Your emotions don't matter anymore either, because if you've got to feel what you've got to feel, well, feel it, you know. There's no other answer to that than just feel it. If you've got to let go of false beliefs you have, well, let them go, because the more you let them go, the more humble you become, and the more humble you become, the more truth you'll absorb. And so the only way that you're going to find yourself progressing for your future is to develop those two primary qualities, humility and faith. Humility and faith. The truth is external. The only way it's going to become internal, remember we started our discussion, yes. Didn't we, on Friday like this? Yes. The truth is external. The only way it's going to become internal is by you exercising faith, which, remember we said this morning, is a soul aspiration for it, and then also by being humble, because without humility you will not absorb the truth presented. You will not be able to. Yep.
Yes, I mean, in summary, when I did the homework yesterday, that's what came out.
Yeah.
The level of resistance inside me that I had to work on in different areas in my life was the theme of the individual things.
Yeah. And so after a while, what happens, Vijaya, is you end up recognising that actually it's almost like forget everything else for a moment. There's really only two things I need to do. Right, so you know how most of us are worried about our life, and we're worried about our families, and we're worried about, getting enough money to live, and we're worried about all sorts of things. Really, there's only two real things that we really need to worry about that is going to help the rest of our life. And the first one is to develop a soul aspiration to change in harmony with God's love. The second is to develop the humility to accept God's truth. Right? They're more important for your life than any other pursuit you could have. And ironically, by pursuing those two things, a lot of other truthful things will come to you that you'll also enjoy pursuing, right? So, but if you have that as your primary pursuit, a lot of things will change. As I said, I think on Friday, seek first that kingdom and everything else will be added to you. All the knowledge you can imagine, all the experiences you can imagine, all the love that is available to you that you can imagine, far beyond what you can imagine, is available to you as long as those two qualities are developed. If you don't develop them, then the opposite is also true. They will not be available to you. The love will not be available to you. The truth will not be available to you. It will not enter your soul. It will enter your mind, but your mind's pretty useless. It's a tool used by your body to function, and it's incapable of true assessment of anything. It's capable of some logic at times, but only when the soul doesn't have opposing emotions. And so, at the end of the day, it's not really very logical, and this is why there's many spirits who come to talk with us, Mary and I, over the course of many years, and they think they're going to trick me with their logic, many of them. So there is all these spirits who come, natural love spirits in particular, and as soon as we boil down to some functional things, they're going, this logic is so confronting because it's based on the truth, and a person can be, if they're connected emotionally with themselves and connected to their soul, connected to faith and humility, you will become an extremely logical person by doing this as well. But it will be logic based upon what's going to benefit your soul, not your mind. And it will be a feeling-based logic. Feelings will appear. So this is how many of you ask me a question and I'm off, right? And, you know, when I say I'm off, I don't mean I smell. I mean that, you know, you ask me a question and I answer it pretty much instantly. And that's all based upon what your soul is capable of doing. You don't have to think about things so much. Your mind can't sort things out. And there's, you know, in your future you'll find if you continue to progress God's way, you won't hardly need your mind at all, and you'll be using your emotions all the time to assess, and it will be all loving assessments as to what is truth. So that's what we'd recommend for you. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just one other question, which is probably on a different topic, but related. One of my Catholic friends who came for one day and didn't come back and quoted John 14. I'm not a Bible. I don't claim to know the Bible, but I did look up that verse about where you say, "I am the way, and the way to the Father is only through me."
Yeah.
And so his logic was, well, I have to believe in Jesus being special, because without that, if he were like us.
Yeah, but I wasn't saying when I said those words, I did say those words, but I wasn't saying that I'm special. I was saying, like, the very first person who learnt these truths was myself. So the way you're going to learn them is from somebody that I've shared the truth with, whether that's me personally sharing it with you or somebody I've already shared a truth with that's sharing it with you. That's just the way it is. It's like there's a first person doing everything. You know, there's a first person who designed the first plane. There's a first person who started doctoring. There's a first person who started every form of thing you can think of on earth. If there was somebody who was first, I just happen to be first at this thing, right? Now, there's a benefit to listening to the person who was first, and that is they probably know the most about it. It's just the way it works, right? They've had the longest experience with it, of course. So our soul has had the most experience with God's love than anyone that has come from this earth. I'm not saying from other earths. From other earths, there are similar people to ourselves who were first. And we will remain the first because we were the first. It's as simple as that. You know, that's how it is. It's just when you're first, well, that's what it means, you know. So listening to somebody who's the first is going to help you, not out of a competition or anything like that, but because they will show you the way. And that's why I said in the first century, I am the way. If you follow my life, you'll follow the way. How I live my life is the way, right? That's the way God taught me to live, and that's the way that I'm teaching you to live. And it's one way. It's not multiple ways. There's one way. And that's why I became the way. It was just through being the first one who found that truth. That's all. And to me, it's a unique. The feeling in me is that it's a unique privilege, right? And so I am very aware that without God's help and without the help of some of my spirit friends in the first century, I probably wouldn't found the way, right? So I don't even sort of see that it's me finding the way. It's just, it came upon me sort of thing through God's help and through the help of others, and many others actually, some of whom are still helping Mary and I today. And so for me, it's just, we found the way, this is the way, it works, it's God's way. If you can follow the way, it'll be great for you too. You know what I mean? And there's no sense of, in that there's no sense of competition or superiority or feeling that we're special in any way, aside from the fact that we're first, right? You know, there had to be someone that was, and we happen to be the first. So when people quote these verses, which actually come from things that I have actually said, frequently they misunderstand those things that I've said. So the very man, was it a man, I think?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Who came, you know, the Christian man who came, you know, first weekend in San Diego, wasn't it? And said he couldn't listen anymore because he wants to believe Jesus is the way. Well, ironically, I am. But he just didn't recognise it, which is quite sad in a way, because he was expecting something else. He was expecting someone who was superior or acted like he had to be honoured and respected and whatever. That's not how we feel. So, and we're never going to feel that. And other Christians expect what, other books of the Bible say, that I'm going to come with a horde of angels, which, by the way, I have. We have lots and lots of celestial brothers and sisters who are helping us on what we're trying to achieve on earth. And so I have come with them, but they just can't see them, of course, so they don't recognise that. But they also say that he'll come and destroy the wicked. Well, that's something I'm never going to do either. God won't even do that, so why would I do it, right? Then I'm portrayed in the book of Revelation as a man riding a white horse coming in the clouds, to destroy the wicked and redeem the righteous and reward the righteous with everlasting life. I can't do that. It's not mine to give, right? God give you that, everlasting life. And whether it's immortal life or not, well, that's going to be determined by how much of God's love you receive. So a lot of these things that are said in the Bible, there are explanations to them, but the average person's not prepared to have a conversation long enough to look at the explanation. Yeah. And this is what we found on Wednesday when we had a chat with our minister friend. It was the same thing. He wasn't prepared to sit long enough with the answers to even understand their explanation. And we find that everywhere we go. And that's just a general drawback of being Jesus, to be honest. If I wasn't claiming I was Jesus, a lot of times the people would probably listen more closely to what's being said sometimes because they feel like, oh, that's an interesting thought. But because of the Jesus thing, they're often going, oh, he's saying he's Jesus, so it can't be true, that kind of thing. And so that it creates a difficulty, but at the end of the day, it's not a difficulty that we didn't foresee. We foresaw that difficulty would be there, but it's still a necessary part of what we teach. Because to be truthful with you, we have to be truthful about who we are. And if we thought we were Jesus and Mary, but we'd never said that to you, that would be very dishonest on our part to do that. So that's something that we can't do, even though many of you would like us to ignore that we are such people,
yes.
So
a lot of people say that to us.
Yeah, a lot of people say that to us. If only you could just
not say that.
Not say that. If only you had never said that, then I could listen to you. We've had that said to us thousands of times, actually. And you should see how many, our inboxes are full of Christian people emailing us about the very people who say they're following me, emailing me, telling me why I can't be Jesus. And giving me a lot of Bible verses as the explanation as to why, without any understanding whatsoever about what I'm teaching or anything else. And in a lot of ways, I just felt like saying, and in the future I probably will say to people who are ministers and other things like that, I just say, well, it's a very silly thing to presume an understanding without question. And what I mean by that is it's a very silly thing to presume Mary and I, just by claiming we're Jesus and Mary, to presume that means a lot of other things. That's a very silly thing to do. You've never met us, historically. There's things written about us from 2,000 years ago. Anything else that's been written from 2,000 years ago is hardly recognisable to now. So why would you expect that anything written about us would be very recognisable? We're not the people who the Bible claims we were. And even the other half of my soul, Mary, was only mentioned like 3 or 4 times in the Bible. And she was with me for
the entire
time. Once we met, she was pretty much, there was a short period of time when she wasn't with me, but after that, with me the entire time.
Nearly in all the gospel accounts, I was there.
The entire time.
The entire time.
Almost,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So from the time of shortly after I began my so-called public ministry in the first century Mary was with me the entire time and hardly mentioned. Like, how did that happen? Like, how do you not mention the wife of the person you say, you know, you're listening to even, right? There's something wrong there, right? But this is the thing, is that people make all these presumptions about us and then say, because of those presumptions, what you're teaching cannot be true. To their own detriment, of course. So this is something that we hope we will be able to correct in the future. One of the things we're hoping to do is to have proper debate about false beliefs on the planet. You know, the false religious beliefs that are in every religion. We would like to raise issues that this can't be false, this can't be true because, this is false because. You know, we would love to start these debates, but at the moment, the way that everyone gets to ignore whatever we say is by saying, well, they're claiming to be Jesus, so we can just or Mary, and so we can just ignore what they say. Now, there'll come a time in the future where it's going to be harder and harder to ignore what we say, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what happens then. And but I'm looking forward to the time when we can have proper discussion about the flaws of all religious faiths on earth, the flaws of lots of different beliefs, because the more you can expose the belief systems that are false, the higher likelihood there now is of people wanting to find out what is true, right? So this is one reason why we do need to have a discussion about what is false, and so that we can discount what is false and focus more attention about what is true. And the more people become aware of why it's false, you know, how love is the measure of everything, they'll be able to also then work out what's false in their own life as well. If love is the measure of everything, they can work out that too. So we're looking forward to that time. Obviously, by Mary and I travelling, there's more potential exposure to that time. But still, the main focus of the spirits who follow us around attacking us is to just attack who we are, so that people don't listen to what we teach. Yeah. So even though those of you who are not convinced about who we are, we would suggest to you, don't worry about that so much. Focus on what we teach.
You'll find the benefits in what we teach.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you apply it with understanding, if you grasp it emotionally and then apply it, you will benefit, and then you'll realise it's true.
Yeah.
What we teach is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know, it's what I love about God's truth is just the more you apply it, the better it gets. But you just have to apply one thing that we teach and life gets better. And that helps you to build faith. A lot of people stumble with the very first things, you know.
Yeah.
Humility, changing beliefs.
Yeah, basically they stumble with their global error of how they deal with their emotion.
Yeah.
That's where there's the majority of problems. And if you can just address faith in that area alone, you will make some major changes in your life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you can just understand how the soul works and just go, my brain and my soul is my emotion, and just understand it at that level, then at least you might then, and have some faith in that, then you can make some very significant changes in your life into more happiness just by understanding that one thing. Yeah.
And yeah.
So that's what we'd like to encourage you to do.
And encourage you in your relationship with God, in prayer.
Yeah.
And you know, something that Eugene, I think, said to someone yesterday was just placing yourself in the position of prayer is a very beautiful thing, actually. It opens you, and whether or not your prayer is sincere yet or not, it will become more sincere if you are genuine in your attempts to pray.
Yeah.
It will show you your blocks, and if you're humble to those, you will become more and more sincere until you do have a proper longing for God's love. And once you establish that relationship, then everything can change. You will appreciate your brothers and sisters who are further progressed, but you will know that God is the authority in your life, and you will seek that. And,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's what we'd encourage you guys to do over the coming years.
Yeah.
And we hope to see some highly developed individuals who have done some of these things about their soul by the time we see you next, is what we're hoping.
Bursting full of aspiration.
That's right, yeah. We'll see whether that happens or not. But, you know, that's going to depend, isn't it, almost totally on your own aspiration, on whether you develop that quality of aspiration. Yeah.
But I just want to mirror your comments there about thank you for your participation. Your participation in these groups that we hold really helps us to explain and draw out and demonstrate all the principles that we want to teach to many people. And you coming and participating and being yourself, and the more you do that, the better our discussions become. So thank you for being here and doing that.
Yeah, that's great.